Just because it's tawdry doesn't mean it's not true. That was a lesson the mainstream media learned during the John Edwards affair. Now some news outlets are allowing one-time porn star Stormy Daniels to talk about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. But others, though, are holding back, doing due journalistic diligence, they say.
CBS's 60 Minutes is making no secret of the fact that it taped an interview last week with Stormy Daniels, the porn star who claimed she was paid $130,000 right before the election to keep quiet about her 2006 affair with Donald Trump.
Stormy taped the 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper last week, but reports say Trump's lawyers are threatening to go to court to stop it from airing.
But CBS News President David Rhodes says it's not a legal issue. Speaking at a conference in Jerusalem this week, he told an Israeli journalist the only reason it hasn't run is that there's still a lot of journalistic work to do. Why this is a big story now is a mystery. Back in 2011, In Touch magazine interviewed Daniels, where she recounted her months-long affair in detail, an interview that just recently ran.
Why it wasn't published before, I can't really speak to. In fact, I don't have the answer. But when I was made aware of it just a few days ago, I immediately realized that had to be the next cover, In Touch.
And In Touch magazine wasn't the only news outlet to have heard the story before the presidential election.
CNN has learned that Fox News and ABC's Good Morning America had information about the alleged affair in the weeks leading up to the 2016 presidential election, but didn't publish it.
The Daily Beast and Slate said they had it too. Fox claims the story did not meet their repertorial standards, while Slate, ABC, and the Daily Beast all say they were trying to arrange interviews with Daniels when suddenly she clammed up.
The Wall Street Journal reported that in October 2016, Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, arranged a $130,000 payment to Daniels to keep her silent about the alleged affair.
Daniels and her attorney offered to give the money back in exchange for her ability to speak publicly. That deadline passed. As for what impact the CBS interview will have on the public, CBS's David Rhodes says it's hard to know, adding, "I encourage everyone to see it." No doubt, everyone will.
Yeah, now they're saying, according to the Washington Post anyway, that this is going to run on March 25th, which is 2 weeks from this Sunday, or a week from Sunday, I guess. I'm going to believe David Rhodes to some degree. I mean, I think that they probably do want to do some due journalistic diligence. They also want to promote this thing as hard as they can for the next week and a half, so more people will come to see it. But they could run it any time. I mean, apparently she is liable for up to $1 million for speaking about the things that were in her non-disclosure. So every time she speaks, she could be, fined $1 million by Cohen. But I mean, he's not going to do that, and I don't see why other organizations, In Touch did it, but I don't understand why she hasn't just been more free to speak at this point.
Well, I mean, clearly what made this a story was when the Wall Street Journal reported on the $130,000 payment. Now it becomes about not just sex, but it becomes about money. And the money itself was at issue because it may have been a violation of campaign finance laws. And so this gives news organizations the hook that they need to get into something that otherwise they would say, well, why are you just reporting on sex? And you could say, well, no, we're not. We're reporting on money and campaign finance violations. But, I just think that President Trump is in a position where he's suing to prevent her from speaking. How does he win either way? I mean, you win a suit to prevent a porn star from speaking about you. I don't see how that is very helpful either.
I definitely don't think that this has anything to do with the whole the campaign finance or anything like that. I think ultimately it boils down to any time that a news organization reports on this story, they know that their viewers or their readers are certainly coming to that article or to that story. So they know that it sells. And I think ultimately that's what it is. Everyone will talk about how, well, we want to make sure that there's journalistic value to the story before we touch it. But if you're getting the clicks or if people are tuning in when you can tease something like this, as you pointed out, they're coming out, they're talking about it. It's almost as if building up to that event. Everyone is chasing the numbers on this story, I think.
I'm not trying to make myself sound all high-minded here, but when you said in the piece that everyone will watch the interview if and when it airs, I will not be watching that interview when it airs. I'll read, descriptions of it after the fact, but I got to say, I have just not been able to get excited about this story. I don't think it tells us anything about President Trump fundamentally that we didn't know before about who he is and the way he operates. And there are a lot of times I read Trump-related coverage or watch it or listen to it, even if I'd kind of rather not. The ouster of Rex Tillerson, for example, I thought was troubling on a number of different levels, but I couldn't stop consuming that information. There's nothing at stake here for the country, whereas in a case like Tillerson, there was. So I'm not disagreeing with any of you exactly, but it's like the journalistic equivalent of cotton
really,
candy.
To me, it's just a fundamental character issue. He's paying off. And by the way, $130,000. I mean, she went cheap.
Yeah.
To not speak about something that clearly happened. Why not just? He has already admitted to doing these kinds of things. Why not just let her say it happened? He should have done that in the beginning.
But is that worse? The payoff, you're talking about it being a character issue. I don't disagree, but
yes,
is it more of a character issue than, say, the Access Hollywood tape and what he said in there? And, the allegations from all the other women who claim that he has. You think? See, I would disagree. I don't think so.
I think there's a little bit of both. The character issue, of course, is there because it's the cover-up and it's the lying about it. And you said you didn't do it, so why are we trying to cover up the fact that she did it? But I think at the core of this, though this wasn't evident at the beginning, believe me, I know that this has evolved to this, is the non-disclosure statement, which is really at the heart of a lot of discussions now with regard to even in our own state legislature. All of these issues that have to do with sex and power and people putting her, in harassing situations, this non-disclosure statement has become something to look at. So in this case, yes, I know there's two private citizens doing whatever they did, but still, it's interesting because it stops her from speaking. And particularly when now she has a new lawyer who said, by the way, he signed it with a phony name.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many levels of character issues here that have to do with covering up and not being transparent about it. And why $130,000? No one has ever explained that. Why not $150,000? There must be a reason, which I think is interest that'll come out as well in this conversation. Now, to your point, will Stormy herself be able to reveal any of that and illuminate all of these points? Don't know. But she's the one in front now saying, hey, I want my voice.
And I do think the venerable nature of CBS News, our favorite word to describe them in 60 Minutes, puts it at a different level, and it could bring it to a bit of a tipping point.